Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. Appreciate the time change that you've gone through with us. But we are here and we are going to be live with Sampath, who I almost feel like is an old friend, having spoken to him early last year. Sampath is Executive Vice President for Verizon and was just promoted to CEO for Verizon Business, which, if you're not familiar, and I wasn't before we spoke, is a company somewhere north of 30 billion just for the Verizon Business. So giant span of control here, or at least semi-control. So Sampath, let me bring you forward, and I'm just so happy again to see you today. And congratulations, first of all, on this terrific and well-deserved promotion.
Karen, so good to be here. Good afternoon, and I'm so happy to have this conversation.
Wonderful. Well, when we last spoke, one of the things you said was that the reason you were at Verizon was that you wanted to be in the business of business and you wanted to shape the telecommunication industry's future. So, in your new role as CEO for Verizon Business, what's your vision for this, and where is the industry going? It's Verizon specifically.
Yeah, Karen, that's a good question. We are in a once-in-a-generational opportunity for this business. There are three big things happening: cloud, broadband, mobility. Every single thing you touch today, almost most things that happen in the technology space touch any one of these three things: cloud, mobility, broadband. Verizon Business is in the business of those three things. So we enable many companies, small to some of the smallest companies, to the pizza shop in the corner of the street, to mid-market companies, to some of the largest companies on earth, as well as some of the largest governments on earth, to be in that digital journey. And we enable that with these three things, mobility, cloud, and broadband. So there's a chance, and it's a once-in-a-generational thing. I think COVID has accelerated some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
But most transformations don't happen or happen well because the underlying network was not right. So we are very busy. We've got such strong momentum because of what we do. So it's a great time for me to be here, and I'm very happy about it.
Yeah. Well, coming into this from the role of CRO, and I want to talk about that transition in a little bit, but you certainly, as being so successful in that role, would understand the needs of your customers and your market. Can you talk? I know that 5G is the underpinning, if not the engine, for some of this, if not all of it. Can you talk a little bit about the current state of 5G and where and when we're headed?
Yeah, look, 5G, we've bet the farm on 5G, Verizon. Between 2021, 2022, and 2023, we'll invest north of $120 billion on this. So with that, we may have bet everyone's farm as well, but we are quite confident and we feel good about that. There are three big businesses within 5G. Let me break those down and talk a little bit about where we are. The first is our mobility business. It's a cell phone in our pockets. It's the tablets. It's the IoT thing. It's doing really well. By the end of this year, almost half our customers will have access to a 5G phone. At the same time in 4G, that number was 30%. So we've really deployed it fast. So you can see that with the launch of C-band, which is our new spectrum. We're seeing more capacity. We continue to take share in the space. So that's a pretty straightforward business. We've been in it for a very long time. Then we have a new business, which we call business internet or fixed wireless access. Typically, we provided internet only in the east corridor of the country. Where the Amtrak ran, pretty much that's where we had our Fios business. Now with fixed wireless access or business internet, we use 5G to offer business internet anywhere, nationwide, which is magnificent because you now get access to a pretty good network, and our broadband product can be deployed super easily. So it's a new market for us. It's a new TAM or an addressable market, and we've never grown faster. In fact, from January of last year to January of this year, our sales grew 30x, and it continues to grow every single quarter. So it's a new market, but we know it's kind of close to our space. The third one is MEC, or mobile edge compute and private networks. Now that is a completely new market, Karen. It's about bringing compute to the edge of the network, low latency network. We've moved from, we're doing a lot of technical work. commercial proof of concepts. We have finally gotten into production. So we have a little more work to do, but there we are making a market from scratch. So 3 different groups in 5G, different places, but it's going very well.
Great. Could you give an example of the mobile edge customer?
Yeah, let me pick on one, a simple one, and maybe two. Conning Factory, it's one of the most technologically advanced manufacturing facilities here in the US, actually in Hickory, North Carolina. And they use our mobile edge compute to do quality assurance on fiber. Very high quality fiber. They use it to do quality assurance where they take pictures of different pieces of fiber as it passes through at very, very, very high speeds. And then they compare it against a sample. If it's not good, they cut it off. If it's good, they let it go through, but it happens in real time. Earlier, they had to batch the whole thing and then do quality control after that. They do it in real time now. Another one is ports, whether it's the Associated British Ports in UK or the Virginia International Terminal in Virginia. It's a lot of port operations. We use private networks to bring high fidelity, high quality network that they use to automate port operations. So just 2 examples, but we probably have hundreds there.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That helps me understand a little better, and I'm sure our listeners as well. So 5G is sort of coming. It's been coming for a while. It sounds like it's certainly more than getting a foothold, but actually making a lot of progress today. Are there headwinds in the industry that are keeping people from being able to access 5G?
Look, with any deployment, many things have to come together. You need the network to be built. You need devices to be ready. Then you need applications to happen. And when all 3 happen, magic gets happen. So, with 4G LTE, trillions of dollars of enterprise value were created when network meets devices meets the application. 5G is no different. We have the network, we have the devices. There's a lot of work in creating these use cases and applications. So it's pretty much going exactly as we planned. You're going to see trillions of dollars of value created on top of the stack. We want a portion of that, but whether it's use cases in healthcare, in manufacturing, in digital transformations, in public sector, in defense, those applications are getting built. There's a pretty large ecosystem that is excited. And we work with a lot of ecosystem partners. In fact, we're the only carrier in the world who works with all the 3 hyperscalers, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. And we're able to use their expertise as well.
Terrific. Thanks. So I'd like to talk about you a little bit. Now that we've talked about Verizon, the last time you and I spoke, you said that your management and leadership style was, quote, to lead with kindness, which of course was something that I loved and I'm sure your employees love. Can you talk a little bit about how this leadership style is critical for you in sort of paving the path forward in your new position?
Yeah, and look, I think one of the things, we don't need to be a jerk to get things done.
No.
People like working with kind people. But one of the other things we've reinforced is kindness doesn't mean you don't hold people accountable for results. We have extremely high standards. Look, we are the largest carrier in the world. We are kind of the benchmark of how carriers should run. We take that seriously, and there's a lot of accountability and responsibility in each one of us. So kindness doesn't come in the way of driving results and making forward momentum. So I think kindness is a way how we treat each other. People want to be held accountable. They want to be responsible for things. So bringing those 2 together with a common mission of driving outcomes has been pretty successful. And I'm going to continue doing that, Karen.
Yes. So I think accountability, bias for action, and leading with kindness were sort of the 3 things that really stood out for me. And I love this idea of accountability, of course. And there's the individual accountability, right? Holding myself accountable. There's you holding me accountable. And then there's the mutual accountability of the group. And so once that is into sort of the DNA of the system, along with those other 2 traits, I think that's certainly a winning combination. So in this new role, so you were previously, the CRO, now you're over a larger section. How do you go about sort of reinforcing those things with the broader organization now?
Yeah, look, the first thing is our concept of a shared success, where, look, we are a large organization. We have sales, marketing, product, finance, legal, all the HR, all the different organizations. And look, we're a reasonably matrixed organization. Everyone doesn't have everything fully pointed to them. You have to work in a matrix environment, which is not typical for large multinational companies like us. So the big thing is, how do you challenge everyone to do and focus on the right priorities, is a concept of shared success. So we have 4 things that we care about, that I care about: revenue/revenue growth, margin, NPS of the product, and employee engagement score. We do an employee engagement and kind of an employee survey every quarter, and we get a score. Everything people do has to ladder up to these 4 things. And you can never be in a position where you have green on your dashboard, but these metrics are red. It doesn't work that way. So everyone is driven by those 4 metrics and then the underlying piece around it. So you are able to drive a large organization towards a common goal. The second one is focus. It sounds very basic. I'm not the first person to talk about focus. I'm definitely not going to be the last one. But in large companies like ourselves, focus is how we win. Because there are many things that can distract us every single day. So the more we focus, we win in those buckets. So that's how we kind of driving our mission and continuing to take share, Karen.
Wonderful. And how many employees are you now leading?
It's north of, it's in the tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands, okay.
Tens of thousands. We have partner organizations. So, when I say big organization, it kind of fits the bill.
Absolutely, it fits the bill. It's wonderful. So I've mentioned twice now that you were the CRO and now elevated to CEO. I'm definitely seeing a pattern of that happening in industry, both in terms of sort of these hyper-growth tech companies that I do a lot of work with, where the CRO is either elevated in the same company or somewhere else in the PE portfolio, for example, into the CEO role, because these go-to-market skills are critical in the role. How have your go-to-market skills prepared you for this new role?
Yeah, it's a good question, Karen. And Karen, look, I'm not a born CRO. I was an accidental CRO, if you will. I started with sales maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. My background is primarily in product management, strategy, and business transformation. I also did a stint as a CFO as well. But one of the things I needed is understand markets and customers better, which is why I was very keen to do the CRO role. And what tends to happen is, where does the tip of the organization come to? You can be, as an organization, very internally focused, but when you take a lens from a CRO, you spend 90% of your time with customers. So everything you do gets looked at within that lens. And then because you look at things within that lens, everyone in the organization has a similar bias to that. So that's how it's helped me, which is I understand very well what customers want and like, sometimes a little too much, but I think that's good, because around me, people understand that, and different organizations kind of all pivot to that, and that becomes the center of focus of an organization, as opposed to other internal teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as I think about now what you've described as this career path that you have, maybe an accidental CRO, but a very focused, perhaps in terms of your career, on getting all of those skills that you need in order to be a CEO, successful CEO. Do you have advice for others in large organizations who aspire maybe to your position or a high position in large organizations?
Look, advice is a very strong word, but maybe some suggestions. Look, one is take risks early in your career. When I look back on my career, could I have taken a few more risks early on in my career? Every year that goes by, the cost of taking a risk increases exponentially. So early on in your career, people have an opportunity to take more risk. You should do it. Very rarely do people regret it. The second thing is, you have to round yourself out, try and do as many different roles so you understand that. But from a way, how do you stand out personally is, everyone has to be known for something. And one of the things, constantly people reach out and say, how do I get promoted to the next level or the next role? And people say, oh, I did such a good job in my current role. Nobody gets promoted for doing a good job in their current role. You get paid a salary every other Friday or every time on your pay cycle. So the focus is, what can you do to set yourself up for the next role? And two, what are you known for? Everyone has a superpower. You have to find your superpower and exploit it massively. So it's not really advice, but a suggestion. I've used it in my career, but maybe it'll be helpful to others.
Absolutely. My friend Dory Clark has one of her books is called Stand Out. And that's exactly the message is you have to pay attention to making yourself, nobody else is going to do this for you. I mean, occasionally you might have an Uber mentor who coaches you on this, but no one else can do it for you. You have to take the risk, as you say, to do something that's a little outside the box that you're working in order to stand out.
Yeah, but I think being known for what you are, because look, it's a very competitive landscape.
Mhm.
Whether it's a large company, it's a small company, it's very competitive. So
Yes.
you have to be known. It's kind of if it's a XY chart on why is performance in your current job, and then the other axis is potential,
Mhm.
how you show potential. You want to be in
Sure.
the top right of that. So
Yeah.
taking care of both and not just focused on doing your current job well.
Yeah, agreed. You might remember my tagline for my business is up and to the right, so we can be in that upper right-hand corner. Thank you for using a 2x2 matrix. I know you think the way that I do as well. Well, Sampath, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and all of these thoughts today. I wish you all the best in your new role. I know that Verizon Business will thrive under you. I know that leaders will certainly learn a lot from the advice you've given today. So thank you and take good care.
Karen, thanks so much. Have a great summer.
All right, take care. Bye.